Let's go down the coast to Hawke's Bay, where coastal erosion is forcing another community to think about their future after waves threatened seafront homes along Haumoana beach yesterday. 2 metres of coastline has washed away in a week, and residents say the Hawke's Bay District and regional councils have failed to provide protection. Again, this is the same issue, protection and warnings. Residents say if something isn't done soon, their properties will not only be washed away, but access to Cape Kidnappers, one of the Hawke's Bay's biggest regional assets, will be under threat. This time, Bridget Burke is the reporter.
Photographer Tim Whitaker capturing a powerful easterly swell over Haumoana beach yesterday. His drone footage shows the impact of a storm off the east coast, sending waves over the balconies and licking the windows of seaside homes along Clifton Road.
John and I were sitting here yesterday and the waves were crashing over, and suddenly we just heard bang on the roof and all these stones rattling on the roof and hitting the window.
It's pretty scary when you wake up in the night and somebody's throwing shingle at your front window and it's the ocean.
The situation here isn't new. Clifton Road residents like Mark Lawrence have long held fears about coastal erosion and its impact on their waterfront homes. He built a sea wall to protect his property in 2008 without resource consent, but he's been locked in a battle with the Hastings District Council ever since, after it demanded he remove the wall or face a $200,000 fine.
We had to get a notified consent to keep it, and I'm telling you, to rip it out, we'd have to get a consent under the RMA to pull it out. So where do we stand? One guy said, you should be suing the council for this.
Haumoana resident Keith Newman is a member of the Clifton Tongoio Coastal Hazards Group. He says it's a critical time for the Clifton coast, which acts as a gateway to Cape Kidnappers.
I think you've got to be pragmatic. You've got to step back and say, well, we get hit occasionally like this. You've got to weather it out, and when it dies down, you see a little bit more erosion. And to me, that's got to be incentive for the local councils to say, do we value this area or are we going to let it erode? And I think one of the big issues is the country's watching what's happening in Haumoana and Tiawanga and Clifton. Clifton's just lost probably 2 metres more, and that's been going on for a long time. They have a plan there to build a protective wall. That's going through the council at the moment. So, yay, something's happening. But at the most vulnerable area where you get access to Haumoana and Tiawanga, we call it the Cape View Corner, there's power, water, road access, all of that's vulnerable and not being looked at a time when we're growing the number of subdivisions out here. We're planning coastal reserves. It seems ridiculous that we haven't got action to protect what we already have.
He says over the past week alone, 2 metres of coastline has been lost to the sea.
There was a section of the road dropped into the sea last week and just yesterday. Big waves there. There are plans for development there, but while it's vulnerable, that area is at risk. The marine platform where the boat club is and the access to the gannets. I mean, this is an important area to Hawke's Bay.
But any action will be too late for Mark Lawrence. He and his family have had enough, and he's angry.
If they want these people out of these coastal zones, which they allowed to be built on in the first place, and then it allowed the beach to disappear in front of our eyes, compensate us adequately. Not at the market rate that's been eroded to the state it's in now, but of a higher value. Why should we have to settle for less when this demise is not our doing? They haven't even got a game plan for managed retreat. They haven't even got one. If you ask any council how they're going to go about it, the detail, the mechanics, they've got no idea. They cannot tell you. It's just a farce. Compensate us and make that coastal zone basically no man's land. No one can live there. That's the way it'll be.
Keith Newman says the Cape Coast is one of the Hawke's Bay's biggest regional assets and must be looked after. He believes the council has unfairly tried to pass on the cost to individual property owners like Mark.
In the past, councils have tried to put the responsibility for protecting the community back on the beachfront owners, and each time they've done that, it's been at an impossible cost to those beachfront and near beachfront owners, and we just cannot go back there again. This has to be seen as the Clifton protection is, as a wider ratepayer area that we all contribute to. We all contribute to the libraries and the Opera House and all the rest of it. Your beach access and your access to recreational and ecological facilities out here is a regional concern. No council should be putting the full cost back onto local citizens.
He adds as the erosion worsens, the council has continued to issue building consents in the area.
The power is very close to the coast, the water is very close to the coast, and if that particular piece of roading that I'm talking about is compromised, then all of Tiawonga loses power and all of Clifton, and this is an important issue. And like I say, we have about 120 new homes about to be built out here. So it seems to me if you don't get the infrastructure right, then we shouldn't be encouraging people to build new homes.
Shirley and John Bridgman have called Haumoana Beach home for 60 years. The couple owns 6 properties along the coastline, and when we called this afternoon, the tide was coming in.
It can be a bit scary because you see it building, like there's one building right now, and you think, oh God, how big is that going to be? Oh, that's a big one. And I think we're about an hour off high tide, and the waves are coming over the fence now.
Keith Newman hopes new councillors will address the inaction of past councils urgently.
We just hope that we don't get hammered by another high seas or king tide again, and then it's too late. I think this is a critical time for the Cape Coast, and with this coastal erosion group, the rest of the country is looking to this area as an example of what might be done.
Mr Newman says officials will hold a closed meeting this week to discuss a strategy for the long-term management of the coast. For Checkpoint, Bridget Burke.